And like I said before, I'm not with you guys 10%, 50%. I will always be the voice for the people in Israel. I will always stand behind the country of Israel, the one and only Floyd Money Mayweather in Israel. I will always be here for you guys when you guys don't have a voice.
You can see that what you do is you pretend to be people's friends. You find out what they want, what their weakness is, and you give it to them. If they want money, you give them money. If they want sex, you arrange for that. If they want drugs, you arrange for that. Whatever it is they want, their weakness is, you feed them. And then you tell them, okay, I'm doing all this for you and I just need these little favors. And you corrupt them. And you corrupt them until you can control them. And of course, you know what they're doing, so you can always blackmail them if they try to get out of line. But basically what controls them is the knowledge that if they don't go along with you, then they lose out on all these things they like. You know, if they play ball with you, then they become rich, they become famous, they have all of their desires sated, they get everything that they want, but in a mental state which is increasingly depraved and subject to manipulation. And that's also the Venetian method, that you win by corruption. And that the thing that the empire fears most of all is an honest man who isn't corruptible because he doesn't want those things.
All of the glory and praise and honor to the Most High, and we're going to get into it, man. Quick little lesson today, man. And we're going to talk about what comes in the form of progress is actually enslavement, or I should say sometimes enslavement, man. You know, it depends on who you're dealing with. And remember in the scriptures, you know, when the fallen angel took Yeshua HaMashiach up to that mountain, you know, he promised them, hey, I could give you all the kingdoms of the world, you know, all the riches, this, that, and the third, and whatever. He said, if you just bow down and worship me. And, you know, when you think about that, though, you know, it sounds like a good deal. All you got to do is bow down and worship me. But, you know, he was wiser than that, you know. He knew that, look, it was things much bigger on the stake, you know, that was at play. You know, when you look at Eliezer in the book of the Maccabees, where all they wanted him to do was eat a piece of pork, and Eliezer chose to go to the rack and die, you know, before he led the people astray. You know, like I said, when you look at that, like, you know, they was bribing him. You know, all I got to do is eat a piece of pork. It sounds like a good deal. But like I said, he knew what was at stake. There was something much more bigger at stake, man. You know, than to just take that little deal that they was giving him. Because he knew it was going to lead the rest of the people astray. You know, so it may come in the form of actually, it look like they're trying to help you out. But that's how they get their claws into you, man. And you see Yeshua HaMashiach then bow down to them, that fallen angel. And you heard what the guy said. You know, that's what they fear. Somebody that don't want none of that stuff, man. You know? And, you know, this is exactly what it talks about in First Maccabees. Like I always say all the time, First Maccabees, chapter 1, 11 through 15. You know, many of them went and made a covenant, you know, with the other nations because they had many sorrows. And they became esteemed under them. Highly esteemed under them. Like I said, they became somebody, you know. And like I said, even with all the skill, you can have all the skills in the world. If you don't bow down, you're not going to get on these major platforms, man. And be able to make the money you make, the sponsorships that you make, you know. And like I said, these things, they seem, you know, these tangible things, they seem, you know, or whatever I should say, whatever they want you to do to get it. It seems like an easy thing to do. All you got to do is this. All you got to do is that. And a little piece by piece, they're going to get you. But it's actually enslavement. And this is why you guys can't lift your head up from them. You know, when you start to when a lot of you guys, when you start waking up, You try to cross back over. I've not seen it before. Damn, let me start preaching the word, this, that, and the third. And they have you guys apologize, And you're not even doing nothing wrong. Look, you see with the whole thing with the Kyrie Irving thing. He already bowed down to that beast. And the reason he had to apologize, because he wants to keep his riches and fame of this world, man. The scriptures talk about that. Many of them, that time is going to come where the cares of this world is going to be more. It's going to be worth more than to endure chastisement, man. So I just want to do a little lesson, man. This is crazy. And this is why time and time again I say, these are not the wise men. Even when you look in the another example is when you look at in the book of the Maccabees too. When that king wanted Matthias and all his sons to come, and bow down to the false gods. And he said, look, I will make you number one. You could sit next. You will be number one of the king's friend. You will be in friendship with the king. All you got to do is just, hey, you got a good following with you too. Come bow down, Everybody else did it. They knew there was something bigger at stake there. Like the scriptures also say, many seek the ruler's favor. Many people seek friendship with the king. But what they were actually trying to do was really enslave them, to where they can't lift their head up against them, But he was actually trying to enslave them, And what did he promise them? When you read that, he promised them gold and silver and riches and fame. The same thing, But those guys in the Maccabees, they were the wise ones, So you can see sometimes, people gonna offer you things, and it's gonna look like progress, but it's actually a form of enslavement that they're trying to, hold over your head. And with Yeshua HaMashiach, that, like I said, you can see, like I said, it sounds like a good deal, like that fallen angel did. It promised them, you just bow down to me, you could have all the kingdoms of the world, and you could be ruler, But we know the scripture says this world is given into the hands of the wicked. It's given into the hands of the wicked. But what did it say at the end of Revelations? Look, to whoever is going to overcome, if you overcome, to him I will give power over the nations. These guys ain't overcoming nothing. They bowing down. And they don't got no power over the nations, man. You niggas don't got no power. It said, to him who will overcome, him will I give power over the nations, man. This is why you can't lift your head up, man, because you don't want to endure. Oh, man. Quick little lesson, man. That's it, man. I don't know. These, like I already said, these are men. These are already men with a darkened eye. So I don't. Like I said, I know better now. I don't expect much, from people that have a darkened eye. When the scripture says, "Look, man, many is gonna be blinded." That strong delusion. They can see, but they still can't see. It talks about people that's gonna be blinded in the latter days. I mean, you can see why they have a darkened eye, because they bow to the fallen angels, man. All right, man, that's it.